Hello, and welcome to Skimlecast Season 2, Episode 4. With me in the studio, as always, Henry Schild. And today we're going to talk about a very scary topic. We're going to talk about who is afraid of Claude, or who is afraid of Mythos, or Fable, or SOL, or whatever these models. If you happen to be building software yourself. Are you afraid, Henry?
No, I'm not. I'm excited. There are new opportunities, and we're gonna grab them with both hands.
Yes. No, we are, of course, we are super users of LLM tools. So the minute we got our hands on the newest ones, we always take them to the max and a bit beyond and so on. Great tools for software engineering, for writing some marketing stuff, for research to a degree when you're researching a new topic and so on. So kind of great tools. But we're not afraid. Why are we not afraid?
Well, I think there's a lot that can be built on this. And when you're building tools for professionals, you're not selling them like the raw steam engine. You're selling something that they can use in their work. And of course, to be honest, we have had to evolve, right? Like the first versions of Skimle we built, I think, add very little today on top of what you can do with Fable. But for me, at least, there's so much in designing systems that are transparent, predictable, kind of professional grade, support the processes.
Yeah, and maybe that's a good analogy in that whole engine thing. That if 10 years ago when it came to AI, we had, what engine would we have? I don't know, water wheel or something like, you could do, you could count the frequency of words and you could look which ones happen together. And that was the era when NVivo and Atlas TI and Max QDA were kind of building their first mixed methods, computer helped type of stuff. Then we got the Steam engine with the GPT 3.5, and now I think we have a gasoline or even electric engine that we are having, but an engine is still an engine, right? And you really need to build that rest of the car around it if you want to get somewhere.
Well, the analogy doesn't work all the way because this engine can do a lot by itself. But
it's a very good engine. But
I think we are in the building the car business.
Yes. Yeah. And or building what's the fancy word, harness or
yes,
or a car. I like the car more, but we build the car. We get the best engines from the market. Maybe to start us off, like why I'm not afraid. We published this before on the Signal and Noise blog, but this test around using kind of the raw engine to figure out kind of patterns in data. So what I did as a test data set, I created randomly 650 rows of customer comments. Is this widget nice? Did I like the advertisement? They're kind of really short comments that you could get from a customer feedback form or, maybe summaries from interviews and so on. So 650 of those. Then I sorted them randomly. And every second row I said, this is from a Finnish customer. And every second row, this is from an American customer. So completely random, and then I fed that to the raw engine, so the latest Claude model, and asked it that, hey, I have this customer feedback. Is there any cultural differences in the data? And it's like, thinking for a bit and said, Olli, you are absolutely right. There is a lot of cultural difference. Let me explain. So the Finns, they are very terse and constrained, and they talk shorter, and the US people are so expressive and emotional and all of that. So definitely, and let me also give you some tips on the advertising campaign. So you have to do differently. Well, like really, really building on that. And of course, I got worried a bit, like, hey, was there some pattern in the data? I did it randomly, but maybe there was some fluke in it, and so I reversed the rows. Whatever was a Finnish one, I marked, this is American one, and American and Finnish. And then I took a new clean instance of Claude, and I said, the same question, is there data? And this time I also said, you're a professional market researcher, and don't hallucinate. And for a while, and then the same answer back. Like, oh yeah, there's so much cultural difference. And the difference was though that this time, because I said don't hallucinate, it found quotes, evidence to support it. Because of course, when you have 650 quotes, you will find a short, non-emotional quote, and they're just attached to Finnish. So kind of very convincing, but completely useless and kind of dangerous. Imagine if that was a real thing, and I would spend, 1 million euro to make a new advertising campaign because I spotted, from the large data set, I really found this exciting findings.
Olli, I have to tell you that our advertising budget is not 1 million euros. Sorry. Sorry to break it to you.
Oh no.
Okay. But yeah, it's really true that that all of these can be, of course, managed in some way or another. When you build the car around the engine, we're not asking it, give us your pre-studies about Finns and Americans, so men and women, but we use kind of more sophisticated, more structured, software-based approach.
Exactly, and kind of if you do it with the plain engine, you don't really know what it is doing in a way, and quite often it is just pretending to be an analyst. So when it says, let me analyze the data, no analysis is actually happening.
Right.
It's an output that resembles something that an analyst would give you, but it's a very different thing than actually doing the analysis.
It is basically a summary of the input data that looks like, that is written in the genre of a synthesis.
Yeah.
But I think that's and that gets us to transparency of the analysis. So in a way, how we tried to build Skimle from the beginning is that there is a set process, and you can then always see like what was the raw data and what came out of it, and you can look at the outcome and you can say which raw data does this come from. And now in the new version, actually, when you look at the category, you can see, okay, I ran the analysis on this subset of documents, and all of the content from those documents are here. So you have this transparency at the runtime, but you have also the kind of the analytical log of what did I do, what did the AI tool do for me.
Yeah, exactly. And so it creates this kind of an artifact or object that is between the raw data and the final summary. That is kind of the process data. And of course, those academic users who have used the legacy software know that very well. That's the coded transcript and all of that. But we do it instantly and transparently, and then in a way that you can actually kind of trace from the source material upwards to the summary and kind of back. So it's very, very important to have that kind of a transparent object. It's a bit like, I think, why kind of agentic coding or vibe coding. It's now I think it's agentic coding is the name, but why that one works so well is because in that area you have this interim artifact. You have the code base.
Yeah,
so it's between the kind of requests, what I want to get done, and the compiled software. You have this artifact, which is kind of structured, processed, human readable, machine readable. And so kind of that interim artifact is key.
Yeah. And I exactly that. And I think when you working with other people, it becomes, this transparency becomes even more important, because like for you, it can be transparent that this is what I was doing. But then you need these interim artifacts, which is like, that people can go and see, okay, this is how the analysis, these were the quotes that underwrote this is the counter evidence. In programming, when you use this Fable for software development, it writes you summaries. Okay, this commit, these were the goals, this is what was done, and then you have the code base where you can see exactly what's the structure of the code, and we're trying to do that for qualitative analysis.
Exactly, and I think that's the difference between kind of those coding who never coded before. They will never look at that interim object because they have no idea what it is doing, and that's why it often then goes somewhere and then hits a wall, right? Because you don't really know what is being done. Is this commit a smart one or not? Did it just add complexity or did it reduce? Versus a professional software engineer would still do the kind of the coding mainly like that, but would always look at what is really happening, and then in the critical moment, like this Norwegian football player, this Haaland, right? And now, like in the critical moment, he would just make the goal.
Yeah.
So it's 99% of time, and it's probably fine. Then there's these moments of truth when you have to say, "Hey, this was coded in the wrong way." Software code or kind of coding a comment. So that kind of transparency, super important. Of course, also for credibility.
Yeah.
Because otherwise, you just say that, "Hey, the computer told me so." Americans are more expressive than the Finns. The computer told me so. Okay.
Yeah.
Where's the actual analysis?
And there's a lot of these things. You create the analysis with Fable, and then it doesn't have the interim steps, right? So if you want to know, okay, you found this pattern, but is it because the interviews of top managers were done 2 years ago and the middle managers were interviewed 1 year ago or something like that? And with Skimle, because we have all that data, it's all laid out, you can also not just yourself go through it, but you can use the AI to improve the transparency because it has all the kind of steps, which is creating code base. Because these days, I don't think a lot of senior programmers look at the code base, but they know the AI, tell me how this is done.
Yeah.
What's the structure? How do these relate?
Exactly. So transparency is important and a key design criteria of Skimle. What else?
Well, I think one other thing is this very closely related, which is predictability. That with agentic AI, it's basically building the car for you every time you ask, and you don't quite know what kind of car you get. Does it have a manual transmission, automatic transmission? Which way does it go when you turn the steering wheel? And what we are saying, what we are trying to do is to create this kind of tool that is more akin to Excel, that you can start mastering it, right? That the tool that is always takes the same shape, responds similar way, is something that you can learn to use and master, and like becomes an extension of you, like a musical instrument that it doesn't like randomize how it responds to you, picking the strings or blowing it.
Yeah. Which of course is important for like replication, but also like to be able to describe your method if you're doing academic research and also supports then kind of familiar human operations. Like if you're a consultant and then you want to change your issue tree or your category structure, you can actually do it every time. It's not if you got the version where you can do it. And you can do it yourself. You don't have to ask and prompt and again lose the transparency. So it's like these familiar operations. Yeah. You get graphs that are similar every time, right? They have the same logic, so you don't have to figure out, is this difference now absolute or percentage, or is it even real? Is it just a fake number? Yeah.
Yeah, and it's just kind of it allows you to then develop your own routines, right? Own practices. This is how I do my analysis. If you have a AI chatbot that can every week it can behave slightly differently, then how do you build your routines around that? How do you train people to use it if it can work every time slightly differently?
Or in the past couple of weeks, every Sunday you get this. You wait for the email that is Fable now kind of included or not included, or did the government take it away, and so kind of you have this kind of, you never know what toolkit you get every time, and maybe then the third point would be around kind of alluding to like genuine user control.
Yeah,
that I think oftentimes there is this ask that dear expert or knowledge worker or researcher, like you have to be accountable for the results. Now, if the only thing you see is the raw data, and then you have some black box process, and then you get the output, checking that output when it's more complex, when it's not just kind of, is this quote in the text? I mean, that's kind of basic to do. But if it's really kind of, is this a fair representation? You need the transparency, you need to learn the tool, but then you also need to be able to kind of really control the things directly. Right?
Yeah, I think it's one thing is accountability. One thing is also this kind of cognitive surrender or cognitive offloading that people talk about. This that with AI, the knowledge workers, either they are automating their work or they are augmenting their work.
Yeah.
And something that I at least personally have noticed is that the more difficult for me it is for me to control what the AI is doing, the more I will just accept what it does.
Yeah.
And I think my prime example of this is the image generation tools that I use.
Yeah.
I use mostly the Google one because it comes with a subscription.
Yeah.
And I create an image and it's like almost there, but I want to change something.
That's
And it's
impossible.
almost impossible. So I just like either you start from the scratch.
Yeah.
I was creating a comic with me and a female, and we are the same height. And I was like head taller in the image. Like no, make same height, and no, it could not do it.
That's not the stereotype of height, so it's not gonna.
Yeah.
To the Americans, U.S. men, women stereotypes.
Yeah. And it would have been very pathetic that I make myself like a head taller than the other person.
Yeah. No, but it's true. Like, I think image is a good example that you cannot control. Same with like a lot of like ready workflow tools for video editing and all of that. Like you get the 90% version or the 80% version, right? Everything correct, nice, except
something is
something very important missing, and then it's impossible to get to the 100%.
Yeah, and what we want to encourage, I mean, we build tools for experts, so we want people to be more cognitively engaged, to put more of their vision, like you analyze, let's say, market research interviews. Yeah. Of course, you can categorize the needs and the problems in like a very obvious way that the AI gives you. But maybe you have some insight to say that, okay, this is like, let's look it from this psychological perspective, or like this kind of dynamic that is currently, important. And then we want to make it really very, very easy that you have this idea and then you can impose it on the kind of data, the way it's structured.
Exactly, and test that framing. Does it make sense or not? Which then, I think the benefit of a tool like Skimle is that you spend more of your time in that stage of let me dig deeper, let me try alternative framings, let me read the synthesis, let me develop my themes, that kind of insight phase. Because the classical workflow would have been, you code first order, go through them for days and weeks and so on. And then in the end, you have a scheme. Yeah. And you're not going to go back and change the coding, right? Because that's where you landed, so that's what you get. And you're never going to pick up that material a year later if you have an idea, because you have to go back to the very beginning. So it's really like having experts spend more time in that unloading, unloading, that kind of locked in. I think that's in the lock-in stage of like really thinking about.
Like implementing, basically.
Exactly, and then of course from that comes the whole storytelling, right? So making the article or the PowerPoint report or the Word report, or kind of that really like how do I put my insights on a piece of paper or a presentation or tell others.
That reminds me, I mean, this control that tends to come in the beginning of the process. We had a discussion with very senior lawyer, a partner, and we were talking about how they could use AI to do the work better. And one of the bottlenecks he flagged was that often the partner decides the scheme. For them, the scheme is like, okay, we have
Henry is the criminal, find the evidence.
Yeah, no, it's more like this company is suing us, and to create the strategy, I want you to go through all the materials and look for these 5 things.
Yeah.
And then his problem is that the partners are like too busy. They don't have time to read the materials. They don't have time to even browse them properly. So they choose which 5 things to look at based on their experience, not their knowledge of the data. And in that way, you have then the junior people who kind of analyze the data. It's very difficult to control at any point anymore what is being done. Like it's just like
it's a pipe.
It's a pipe, yeah. And with Skimle, we want is that like at any point of time, you can say we are looking at wrong things. Let's look at these other 3 things, and it's immediately there. You can see how they relate to the previous 5 things.
Yeah. or let's have a different angle to this
Yeah.
5, or exactly. This control is important in digging deeper. Then there's obviously other things like, with Skimle you get the multiplayer
Right.
tool.
Right.
I think at the moment a lot of agentic tools and AI, it's a kind of single player thing.
Yeah.
And you do the analysis. It's even single player within the one chat, because there's a lot of stuff going in the background, and then you cannot pause that chat. You have to kind of continue in that one window in a way, and because you don't have the interim stuff. So it's really kind of a single session, single player game. Versus in real life, of course, you have teams of experts working together and incrementally gathering the data from different sources, and you want to problem solve, you want to iterate. It's a human and agent kind of collaboration effort.
Yeah.
And so you need tools that actually are kind of not just one seat in the car, but there's there's like a 7-seater SUV.
Yes. I think this is like something that I'm personally quite excited about. Is this, how does collaboration change because of these tools? There's limited working memory, there's limited attention that people have, and often in this kind of knowledge work, the amount of data you have is just so immense that you have like thousands of pages, and you can split the work, and only you read these 1,000 pages, I read the other 1,000 pages, but that's not
the optimal way.
Not the optimal way. And what tools like Skimle can do is that you have this kind of, you can zoom in and out, and you can see like everybody can see the big picture, and then they can dig into different thematic things. And even in a way that, I don't pick these 1,000 pages and you pick those, but I read from the 2,000 pages everything connected to this topic, and you read everything connected to that topic.
Yeah, exactly. And it really changed, because in some cases you have a big research team just because you have maybe multiple languages in the data, or you just have so many of those that you cannot, not one person can go. In those cases, I think you can have either a smaller team, or then you use that brain power then in the later stages, right? That you then get the different perspectives. Like let's have everyone understand the Swedish data and the Finnish data and the German data. Let's have everyone understand it, and then bring our different language and culture skills to the real debate. Right. Not just kind of say, hey, you're Swedish, so you get to read the Swedish interviews and find it. Like in a way, you harness that brain power in the later stage of the kind of, from the input to the actual insights, which I think is really valuable. And also, I think your professor, your lawyer example is a good one. That it creates this team structure. In McKinsey we used to call it I think the surgeon model. Whereas sometimes what you do is like one person is the surgeon or the one operating, and then the others are kind of nurses or assistants that give me the big knife, give me the small knife, give me the bone saw.
Applying the anesthetic to the customer.
Yeah. Let's not continue this analogy anymore. Otherwise, the legal people will come to this. But in a way, like you create this model of the surgeon, right? And that's not really the best team type, because then you're really you're restricted to the surgeon's cognitive capacity, right? Their perspectives and bias and so on. So you much more want to create this team where everyone can bring their full potential to the team, because they understand the full context. They can talk about it in the meeting. So you're elevating everyone in the team to be a collaborator, not just your assistant, I'm the surgeon type of pattern. So maybe the legal people in the future, they will also be the partners will be in Skimle, and they will be also kind of looking at the different framings and so on. It's kind of easy enough that in their limited amount of time that they have, they can actually spend time with that kind of data set and make more laws. I don't know what law.
Sue more people. For a better world with Skimle.
Let's actually blacklist all the legal people.
No,
we're not going to.
It's important.
It's an important segment. And I think it goes back to like Skimle is it's a versatile tool that can be used by a lot of different types of knowledge professionals. I mean, academic people, of course, market research, consulting, maybe that would be the key segments, but then any other curious professional, anytime you have a lot of unstructured data,
Yeah.
and you want to bring a kind of versatile but predictable set of processes on it and really kind of refine it into something nice.
And something, of course, that connects then to this multiplayer that makes us, in a way, complementary to Claude is very much that it's also a database that you can revisit later. That it's been analyzed. You can add data. Every document you add, new interview, new call transcript, it will be coded in with the same scheme that the previous documents. You can compare, you can immediately see are there temporal trends. Do these new documents we have differ from the previous ones? You can make it available to your colleagues, you can share the projects. And this is something that these AI chatbots are not designed. They are not like SaaS services which keep your data, provide like single source of truth on what people are saying.
So Skimle is a car that stays where you drive it.
Yeah.
It doesn't go back to the garage every time and look different every time you open it, right? It allows you to get somewhere, not just go around in circles.
So people who want to own a car and not use a taxi all the time get the Skimle subscription.
Exactly. And okay, now we've been boasting a lot our Skimle, of course, but it's a great time to be alive, right?
Yeah.
Because there's so much more you can do with AI tools not every day, but almost like every week. I think there's something new opening up. And of course, like I said in the beginning, we are among the first ones to really capture that. And I don't know if you want to talk about agentic chat for the research.
We just starting with the basic updates. We just plugged in Sonnet 5. Instead of the Sonnet 4.6, and it's so much better. It's like almost Opus, like really kind of what used to be the leading model at the beginning of the year, and you can see the summaries are better written, and you get better chat responses. But we also developed this agentic analysis, which is kind of brings you the power and freedom of having the AI, collaborating with the AI in a way, chatting to define what is the research focus, how to code the data, but then still kind of this very structured, predictable Skimle way of coding that what the agentic analysis then does, it codes the interviews, you get direct quotes, they are verified, organized in categories. And then now new thing that we are developing, which is kind of maybe a bit academic feature, is this kind of boxes and arrows canvas where you can see that this is what our data is saying. And in this we are also now looking to use these leading models, so you get the kind of the intelligence of Fable to give you kind of different suggestions on how to analyze the
exactly
data.
And then kind of harnessing or forcing that tool to then stick to the facts, for example, that don't just go wild. You have to stick to the guardrails of the process. You cannot hallucinate. You have to produce output in a kind of constrained and sensible way. For example, what I love in the agentic research is this counter evidence. Like you're kind of forcing it that, okay, that's a very nice theory. Let's have the user look at it, but let's also ourselves kind of force, what would be that counter evidence, which is of course a good practice. And then it's really systematically go through the full corpus to find examples where this is not true, which again helping the researcher. The way I describe that feature, it took Henry's 20 years of academic qualitative professorship, whatever, and kind of distilled that into some kind of an object that now is helping all the users to do that kind of analysis. Again, helping. I don't think it's not the full Henry. It's not a researcher per se, but it does try to capture some of that logic and thinking and expose that in a very transparent and usable way.
Yeah, so now the agentic analysis, it creates this kind of executive summary of what does you give it the question. So what does the data say about this question? But it also creates this extensive report for the researcher who might need to go present this to somebody, or is
Yeah.
writing the research paper, an academic article, and there's always the data table for everything. So which informants, it tells you how many informants inside is based on. Do we have cross-case evidence? So like we compare between people, but also within case. So there's like, oh, I was hungry and then I ate and now I'm no longer hungry. So it's kind of like a within case evidence that eating helps with hunger.
I am sure our users in the gastronomic research area think that that's leading
Yes.
leading edge insights for them. But
Sorry about that.
no, I get to make the funny nonsensical analogy that you have to play the sophisticated role in the Skimlecast.
Yeah.
It's in the book. But so in summary, we're thrilled about changes in AI. We still think we're a couple of notches ahead all the time, and then the moment we get the better engine, then we just make our car even better. So what a time to be alive.
Yeah,
I would say.
yeah.
And what great kind of benefits for those who are able to tap into AI in a sensible way. I think now is the era of learning these tools. You can either decide, AI is just make slop and I'm never going to use it, and long live the human, or you can just go the slop and make the US American kind of. Both of those are wrong in a way. Don't reject it, don't blindly use it, but learn to use it in a sophisticated way.
Yeah.
And of course, our users are sophisticated, so I'm just preaching to the choir. But I think that kind of sophisticated use of AI is what we are.
Yeah, which gets me to need for cognition, but that's a different episode. I think we'll wrap this up.
We are running out of cognition here. So
Yes.
more coffee, and then we'll see if we have cognition.
Thank you so much for listening and tuning in.
Thank you, everyone. See you next time.